Welcome back, mental health champions. We are welcoming back one of my earlier guests. She's coming back to let you know what's new in her world. We'll catch you up on what she does beforehand, but I have to welcome you back for your second episode with me. Thank you so much.
Thanks again for having me here. It's a pleasure being back and chatting with you about my favorite topic.
Yes, one of my favorite topics as well. If everyone is tuning in for the first time out there, this is a mental health break where we normalize the conversation around mental health. I bring in different advocates and professionals from all around the world to cover different topics relating to mental health because I want to remind you that you are not alone. And for today, as I mentioned, we're bringing back an all-star guest. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to everyone and touching on your story relating to mental health before we get into everything new.
Okay, sure. So I am Jodie. I work with women who struggle with anxiety from a holistic perspective. So I offer a 4-month program that helps women really uncover root causes of anxiety that most traditional and even therapy professionals don't necessarily look at. So I love looking at what's beneath the surface. I love giving women hope. I love helping them find answers when they can't find it anywhere else, and uncovering things in a deep way. So I do this through, therapy approaches. I do offer tangible therapy approaches. We look at the limbic system. So that's brain rehab, so to speak. We look at diet, we look at infections, we look at copper toxicity, we look at mold, we look at histamines, we look at hormone imbalance, thyroid health, all the things I think that are really key and that a lot of times is missed. And I got into this work from my own journey. So I started out primarily as a therapist. I've had a master's in social work for over 15 years. And a lot of my work was in the autism field. And then I had my own private practice as well. And while I was offering a private practice, I got very sick and my anxiety was sort of out of control. So, I would sit there talking to clients and my heart would race the whole time. And I was like, what is happening here? Like, I know the therapy strategies, and I know they're not going to work on me. So what am I missing for myself and what am I missing for my clients? And, that journey of figuring out for myself is really what led me to offer what I do right now for women, because, I started to realize there's such a big missing piece of the puzzle when it comes to mental health. Like, everyone's talking about, let's do therapy, but the pendulum sort of swung the other way and no one's looking at like what's imbalanced in the body. So that's what I do right now.
I love it. And it's definitely something that needs more attention. It's not, like you said, overly talked about, and it should be. Is this service that you offer, is it just virtual? Is it in person?
No, it's virtual. So I offer functional medicine testing, and the beauty of functional medicine testing is that you can, for the most part, do it in your own home. So, stool samples, hair samples, saliva samples, dried urine samples. Sometimes there's blood work involved. But I work with people across North America, mostly Canada and the US, to help them figure it out. And this is great because some women can't leave their home, right? So they're like, can't go to the doctor, I can't see a therapist locally. And the other thing is, when you're dealing with anxiety, the root causes aren't as straightforward as, gut infections. There can only be so many gut infections or gut issues going on. And with anxiety, it's like there can be multiple causes. So if you go to a local practitioner who's not familiar with anxiety, then you actually end up leaving more hopeless and more disillusioned about natural health approaches, because I saw 9 practitioners, natural health practitioners, along my journey, and it was only the 9th one that gave me answers. So if I gave up at 8, I would not be sitting here today in the same state. So yeah, I think having that access to people who are experts can be helpful, rather than, I don't want to say being stuck, who's local, but if you're from a small community, that's what it can feel like.
Having the access to the right information is the challenge, and that is what we need to get people in the hands with. That with the internet, there's always so much information, but getting the correct information, the right information from an expert like Jodie here today is extremely important. We'll plug it again at the end, but please say where we can find this online.
Okay, so Facebook group Healing Anxiety Holistically for Women. And then I have a Instagram, healingjourney_services. And then I have a webpage, www.healingjourneyservices.com. So lots of ways to connect. I would say I'm most active on Facebook.
All right, perfect. Everyone, just scroll down in the episode description. I'll have Jodie email me everything after the show. And for now, I want to touch on something about you. What are some things you do for your mental health to take care of it? But before we get to that, I'd love to hear a quick word from our show sponsor, Tampa Counseling and Wellness, and you could find all of their information in the show description.
Are you constantly exhausted and overwhelmed? Do you struggle with your confidence or self-esteem? Are you ready to live a life with more passion, courage, and excitement? At Tampa Counseling and Wellness, we want to be there for you every step of the way. While we understand that change may be difficult, we have a proven track record of helping our clients live a more joyous and meaningful life. Whether you are looking to overcome some current life challenges or you are looking to do some deeper healing, we are here to help you. Our compassionate approach to therapy is rooted in building your confidence and insight while helping you gain mastery of your life. If you would like to learn more about our services or you would like to schedule a free consultation with one of our clinicians, please visit us at www.tampacounselingandwellness.com or simply call or text us at 813-520-2807. We look forward to growing with you, Tampa Counseling and Wellness, where it is okay to not be okay.
I really like this topic because I feel like I just did a bunch of things that I can now talk about. So I just spent 2 months in Tulum, Mexico. And for anyone that has been there, they might have been for the party side, they might have been for the beach, they might have gone as a tourist. There's also a very spiritual healing community there. And so I've actually done a lot of really interesting sort of off the beaten path kind of approaches to healing myself when I was there. I talk a lot about healing physically. And what's interesting is my pendulum is swinging back to healing on a deeper level emotionally. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing a lot of work in my personal life around trauma. So my theory tends to be like, let's stabilize people physically. If you're living in mold, if you're eating shit, if your limbic system's chaos, you're not going to be able to do the deeper trauma work. It's going to be really hard for you to unpack that. And so I like to focus on that. And I did that for myself. And so now I have this ability to dive into energetic trauma patterns that have been happening and playing out my whole life. And so that's really what I'm dealing with and diving into myself. So I don't know what would be helpful for you. Do you want me to talk about some of the things I did in Tulum that I found really interesting or yeah.
Sure thing. I mean, whatever you think, whatever you can offer to our audience, I'm all for.
Yeah. So one of the things that I did was family constellation work. And I don't know if you're familiar with that at all. It was a new approach to me, and it was sort of aligned with something that I'm currently studying and will be offering in the future, which is around ancestral trauma and repeating patterns of trauma that happen across generations. And family constellation work sort of narrows that in around the energetic patterns that's happening in the family, that's playing out, that's like repeating in your life over and over and over again, and uncovering what that is. So I did it in a group. There was a group of people that came, and, you come with a problem, and then different players in the group act as different players in your life. So I'll just give an example of what was not my issue. So this woman came and said, I can't keep money. Like it's just gone. Like, I don't know what I want to do. I keep changing my mind. And so I got to be money in this scenario. And then another woman was her mother. And we really explored the dynamics between her relationship with her mother and old wounding of like her never feeling held and supported and safe with her mother, and how that was impacting money and her ability to hold on to money, because there's a strong connection between, money and the mother wound, which is super interesting, right? So I did that work for myself and really uncovered some deep patterns that were happening in my family life that was playing out in my real life. So, that's an example of not doing talk therapy, right? I'm doing something different, that's going to get at things from a much different angle. And, I only did that a couple months ago. And I think when we're doing deep work like this, that it sort of unravels itself over time. Right. And so I'm still sort of
Absolutely.
like, oh yes, there's that pattern. Oh my gosh, there it is again. Excuse me. And I'm getting this like good insight into how these patterns are showing up, and encouraging myself over and over again to step out of that loop and let it go. So that was probably one of the more profound things that I did. And then the other thing that I did was KAMBO. Have you heard of KAMBO before?
I have, but I don't know in which context I heard it from, so I can't tell you what it is. Please and teach me.
Yeah. So KAMBO is people hear of it as frog poison. And I'm very defensive of it and like to correct people because you vomit when you take it. It's actually not a poison at all. So it's an Amazonian medicine that's derived obviously from frogs. And what it does is it's actually neuropeptides. So very, very good for the body, very, very potent. And so you apply it by burning a couple of dots on the skin.
Okay.
And it's the scab is then peeled away. So it's transdermally applied. And it's very quickly fast acting. So you drink about 2 liters of water very quickly before you apply this medicine. And this acts as the body of water, obviously, that's going to detox you. And what happens when you have this water in conjunction with the KAMBO is that it gets pushed inside your cells. So then your brain does a systematic check throughout the body that's like, whoa, why is this in the cells? And so it starts pushing all the toxins out of the cells that shouldn't be there. And then the water and the bile then flushes the toxins out. So it's about a 20 to 30-minute process. You are purging. It's probably one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever done in my life. Sometimes it was coming out both ends, to be a little TMI. But it was super interesting for me because I was purging things energetically and also physically. I haven't shared a lot about my story, but I struggle from mold illness. I've had, Lyme's disease. I have an active Lyme co-infection called Bartonella. I have retroviruses active, and I've done a lot of herbal work on that and kind of hit a wall with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really curious to see, what is the role that KAMBO's going to play in doing this deeper level of detox. And I had a friend of mine do it and a couple colleagues, and they said it was pretty game changing for them. So it was fascinating for me because I noticed a massive difference after doing it physically and energetically. Like, mold and living in mold is a very heavy thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's connected with shame. It's like decomposing your body, right? If you think about it. And so I found that KAMBO really sort of switched that energy for me that I'd been stuck in for years, and gave me this ability to kind of move past it. So that was another really big,
Awesome.
kind of very experimental piece of things. And I find like the deeper you go into healing, at least me personally, the more I'm opening up to these ideas that like when I first started, I'd be like, no, like going gluten-free is enough for me. And now it's like, there's still some things that I want to work on personally that aren't where I want them to be. And so I'm going deeper and deeper into these ways of healing that aren't necessarily mainstream, but are pretty profound. And KAMBO, the nickname of it is nature's vaccine, and I love that, right? Like and I had it right where a vaccine would be. So it was a pretty profound experience for me, and it took me 2 years. Like this isn't something like, oh, I went to Tulum and like I jumped on the KAMBO bandwagon. I'd followed somebody who'd done it for 2 years. I'd researched it. I talked to my own doctor about what I needed to do it. And I thought a lot about it, and then intuitively felt like, this is a good next step for me. This is aligning with who I am right now and where I'm at in my journey.
I love it. Well, I'm glad it worked for you, and I'm glad you had such a nice stay. Beautiful, beautiful place. And now, can you please spell that for me so I can not mess it up in the show notes?
Yeah, KAMBO.
KAMBO. That's also nature's vaccine. And I want to thank you so much, not only for coming back today, Jodie, for always bringing something new to the show. You just taught me a whole lot. Our audience got a whole lot. I mean, from family constellation work and ancestral trauma. I think that's something that will certainly entice some listeners out there to reach out. One more time on how we could find you, website, everything, Jodie.
Yeah. So, Healing Anxiety Holistically for Women is my Facebook group. You can find me at www.healingjourneyservices.com. And then my Instagram is healingjourney_services.
Thank you so much. And everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in for another episode here on A Mental Health Break. Stick around next week for another great show, but today certainly did not disappoint. Jodie, thank you for taking the time to come back, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much for having me. Bye for now.